Jake Miller wiped the sweat from his forehead and looked at the broken panel in front of him. The lights in Section C of the Terra Nova had been flickering for 3 days now. Captain Lisa Brooks had asked him to fix it before they reached the next trade station. Jake was good at fixing things. He had been working on ships for 15 years. The Terra Nova was not a fancy ship. It carried supplies between planets and sometimes to passengers who could not afford the big cruise ships. Jake liked working on it because the problems were always different. Today, he needed to replace some old wires behind the wall panel. He opened his toolbox and pulled out his hammer. The panel screws were stuck and he would need to tap them loose. Jake had used this same hammer for 10 years. It was heavy and comfortable in his hand. He gave the first screw a gentle tap. Warning: unknown vessel approaching. All crew report. To stations. The ship's computer voice made Jake stop working. He looked out the small window near his workstation. A large ship was coming toward them. It was white and smooth, with strange curves that did not look like any human ship Jake had ever seen. Captain Brooks' voice came over the speaker. "This is the transport vessel Terra Nova. We are on a routine cargo run. Please identify yourself." New voice answered, but it sounded strange. The words were clear, but the tone was different from human speech. "Greetings, Terra Nova. This is Commander Vex Tar of the Galactic Council patrol vessel, Harmony's Light. We require a standard inspection of your vessel." Jake had heard about the Galactic Council. They were aliens who kept peace between different worlds. Most humans had never seen them, but they sometimes checked ships that traveled between star systems. Jake kept working on his panel. He figured the inspection would take a while, and he might as well finish his job. 20 minutes later, Jake heard footsteps in the hallway. The steps sounded different from human footsteps. They were lighter and made a soft clicking sound. He looked up from his work and saw Captain Brooks walking toward him. Behind her were 3 aliens. Jake had never seen real aliens before. They were tall and thin, with blue-gray skin that seemed to shine in the light. Their heads were larger than human heads, and their eyes were big and dark. They wore white uniforms that looked like they were made of some kind of metal fabric. "Jake, these are our guests from the Galactic Council," Captain Brooks said. "Commander Vex Tar wanted to see our repair operations." The alien in front stepped forward. When he spoke, Jake could see that his mouth was smaller than a human mouth, and his teeth were different. "Greetings, repair specialist. We observe your maintenance procedures for our records." Jake nodded and smiled. "Sure, no problem. I'm just fixing some wiring. Should be done soon." He turned back to his work and reached for his screwdriver. The panel had 4 screws that needed to come out. Jake had done this kind of work thousands of times. He put the screwdriver against the first screw and started to turn it. Behind him, he heard a strange sound. It was like a gasp, but higher and more musical than human sounds. Jake looked over his shoulder. All 3 aliens had stepped back. Their big eyes were even bigger now, and they were staring at the screwdriver in his hand. "Is something wrong?" Jake asked. Commander Vex Tar was breathing fast. His voice was shaky when he spoke. "Why do you carry weapons during peaceful operations?" Jake looked at his screwdriver. It was just a normal tool with a red handle. He had bought it at a hardware store on Earth. It's not a weapon. It's just a screwdriver." "A what?" The commander's voice was getting higher. "A screwdriver. For screws." Jake held it up so they could see it better. The 3 aliens jumped back even further. Captain Brooks looked confused. "Commander, I don't understand." "Jake is just doing repair work." The alien on the left was pointing at Jake's toolbox. His hand was shaking. "Captain Brooks, your crew member, possesses multiple military-grade assault implements. We count at least 6 weapons of mass destruction in that container." Jake looked at his toolbox. Inside were his hammer, 3 screwdrivers, 2 wrenches, wire cutters, and a utility knife. These were the same tools he carried every day. Every repair worker had tools like these. "Those aren't weapons," Jake said. "They're just tools. I use them to fix things." Commander Vextar was talking quickly to the other aliens in their own language. The sounds were like music, but scared music. Then he turned back to Jake and Captain Brooks. "Captain, your species' definition of tools requires immediate investigation. No civilized being carries devices designed to crush, pierce, cut, and tear during routine activities." Jake looked at his hammer. He supposed it could crush things, but that was not what he used it for. "I use the hammer to tap things loose when they're stuck. The screwdriver turns screws. The knife cuts wire insulation. They're not meant to hurt anyone." "You admit to cutting and striking with these implements?" Commander Vextar's voice was barely a whisper now. "Well, yeah, that's how you fix things." The 3 aliens looked at each other. Jake could tell they were very scared, but he did not understand why. He had never hurt anyone with his tools. "They were just for work, Captain." Brooks stepped forward. "Commander, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Human repair techniques might be different from yours, but Jake is not a soldier. He's a maintenance engineer." "Captain Brooks," Commander Vextar said, "we must escort your vessel to Nexus Station immediately. The Galactic Council Security Tribunal must examine this situation. No vessel carrying such an arsenal can be permitted to travel freely through civilized space." Jake looked at his toolbox again. Arsenal? He just wanted to fix the lights in Section C. Nexus Station was bigger than any building Jake had ever seen. The Terra Nova looked like a toy next to it. When their ship docked, Jake saw hundreds of other ships from different worlds. Some were round, some were long and thin, and some had shapes that hurt his eyes to look at. Jake walked through the docking tube with Captain Brooks and 3 other crew members. Pete Davis and Amy Cole worked with Jake in the engineering section. Ryan Clark was from the security team, but he also knew how to fix things. All 4 humans carried their toolboxes because they thought they might need to repair something on the station. The aliens waiting for them wore different colored uniforms. Some were blue like Commander Vextar, but others had green skin or silver skin. A few looked almost human except for their eyes or ears. Jake had never imagined so many different kinds of people could exist. "Welcome to Nexus Station," said a tall alien with purple skin. "I am Station Administrator Felanoth. You will be escorted to the Security Tribunal chamber." They walked through long hallways filled with aliens. Jake noticed that many of them stopped and stared when the humans passed. Some pointed at their toolboxes and whispered to each other. A few small aliens ran away when they saw the humans coming. The tribunal chamber was a big round room with seats arranged in a circle. In the center was a platform where the humans were told to stand. Around them sat 12 different aliens. Some looked friendly, but most looked worried or scared. An alien with 4 arms and silver skin stood up. "I am Prosecutor Thane Morgul. I will present evidence of the crimes committed by these beings." Captain Brooks stepped forward. "What crimes? We haven't done anything wrong." "Captain Brooks," Thane Morgul said, "your crew members carry weapons of mass destruction. They have admitted to using these weapons to crush, cut, and destroy. We have recorded evidence of their violent actions." A large screen appeared in the air above the platform. Jake saw himself working on the Terra Nova. The recording showed him hitting a piece of metal with his hammer. The sound was very loud in the quiet room. Several aliens made scared noises. "As you can see," the prosecutor said, "the human Jake Miller demonstrates the proper technique for assault with a crushing weapon. Notice how he strikes the metal with maximum force." Jake wanted to laugh, but he could tell this was serious. "I was just trying to flatten a bent piece of metal. The hammer didn't hurt anything important." The prosecutor played another part of the recording. This time it showed Jake using his screwdriver on a screw. Here we observe the twisting torture. Technique. The human applies rotational force to cause maximum damage to the victim. That's not torture, Jake said. That's just how screws work. You turn them to make them tight or loose. An alien with green skin and 6 eyes spoke up. I am defense advocate Kira Zenthal. I will represent the humans in this tribunal. She looked at Jake with curiosity. Human Jake Miller, can you explain why your people choose to repair things by attacking them? Jake thought about how to answer. We don't attack anything. When something is broken, we use tools to fix it. Sometimes you have to hit something to make it straight. Sometimes you have to cut bad parts out. Sometimes you have to twist things to make them tight. The prosecutor showed more recordings. Pete Davis was using a wrench to tighten a bolt. The screen made the sound very loud, and it sounded like metal screaming. Amy Cole was cutting a piece of wire with wire cutters. To Jake, these looked like normal work activities. To the aliens, they looked like torture. This is evidence of systematic violence against innocent materials, Thon Morgul said. These humans take pleasure in destroying things. We're not destroying anything, Pete said. We're fixing things, making them work better. The worst part came when they showed Ryan Clark's multi-tool. It had 12 different functions: knife, screwdriver, pliers, wire cutters, scissors, and others. Ryan opened each tool to show how it worked. 3 of the alien judges made 6 sounds and had to leave the room. A combination weapon system, the prosecutor said, designed for maximum destruction in minimum space. This proves that humans are a warrior species pretending to be peaceful. Defense advocate Kira Zenthal asked to speak privately with the humans. They were taken to a small room with chairs that were too tall for human bodies. Kira's 6 eyes looked at them with interest. I want to help you, she said, but I do not understand your technology. In our civilization, we repair things by singing. To them, we use gentle energy to heal damaged systems. We never strike or cut or twist anything. Amy Cole leaned forward. How do you fix something that's really broken? Like if a pipe has a hole in it, we would ask the pipe to close its wound. If that failed, we would replace the entire pipe with a new one grown from living metal. Jake shook his head. That sounds nice, but it wouldn't work on our stuff. Our machines are made from dead materials. Metal, plastic, rubber. They can't heal themselves. We have to fix them with our hands and tools. But why do you make machines that cannot heal? Kira asked. Because that's how we learn to make things. Pete said, humans have always built things from parts. When a part breaks, we replace it or repair it. Kira's eyes blinked in a pattern that might have been confusion. This is very strange to us. We have never met a species that deliberately creates suffering machines. They're not suffering, Ryan said. They're just machines. They don't feel anything. How can you be certain? Perhaps they suffer in silence. The humans looked at each other. Jake had never thought about whether his tools or the machines he fixed might have feelings. The idea seemed impossible, but maybe that was because he was human. We need to return to the tribunal, Kira said. I will try to defend you, but I must warn you. If the council decides you are too dangerous, they will not allow humans to travel in space anymore. Jake thought about his toolbox sitting in the evidence room, his hammer, his screwdrivers, his wrench. Tomorrow they might decide that these simple tools were too dangerous for the galaxy. Dr. Helen Ward was the chief engineer of the Terra Nova. She had been fixing ships for 25 years and knew more about human technology than anyone else on the crew. When the tribunal called her to testify, she brought her big toolbox with her. She wanted to show the aliens how human repair work really functioned. The moment Helen walked into the tribunal chamber carrying her toolbox, alarms started ringing throughout Nexus Station. Red lights flashed on the walls, and a computer voice announced, "Security alert level red. Weapons of mass destruction detected in tribunal chamber. 12 armed security guards rushed into the room. They wore thick armor and carried devices that glowed with blue energy. All of them pointed their weapons at Helen's toolbox. She stopped walking and raised her hands. "What's happening?" Helen asked. "I just brought some tools to explain how we work." Station Security Chief Grok Mar entered the chamber. He was 8 feet tall with thick gray skin and 4 arms. Each arm held a different weapon. "Dr. Ward, you have brought an armory into a place of peace. Our scanners detect 47 individual assault devices in your container." Helen looked at her toolbox. It was bigger than the ones Jake and the others carried, but it only had normal tools inside. "These are just repair tools. I've used them to fix thousands of machines." "Exactly," Prosecutor Thane Mughal said. "You admit to using weapons against thousands of victims." Helen opened her toolbox slowly. The security guards tensed when they saw the contents. Inside were wrenches of different sizes, several hammers, power tools, measuring devices, and cutting implements. To Helen, they were essential equipment. To the aliens, they looked like instruments of torture. "This is a socket wrench," Helen sighed, picking up one of her favorite tools. "I use it to remove bolts that are too tight to turn by hand." She demonstrated how the ratcheting mechanism worked. Each click of the wrench made the aliens jump. The sound echoed in the chamber like gunshots. 2 alien judges covered their ears with their hands. "Stop," commanded Judge Luxara from the Council of Elders. "We cannot bear to witness more demonstrations of mechanical violence." Helen put the wrench down. "I don't understand. This tool doesn't hurt anyone. It just makes work easier." Defense advocate Kira Zenthal spoke carefully. "Dr. Ward, perhaps you can explain how your people learn to repair things using these methods." Helen thought about the question. Humans have always been builders. Thousands of years ago, we made tools from stone and wood. We learned that sometimes you have to hit things to shape them. Sometimes you have to cut things to make them the right size. Our technology grew from these basic ideas. "But why did you not develop gentler methods?" asked Judge Mervith, a small alien with crystal-like skin. "Because they work," Helen said. "When something is broken, we fix it as quickly as possible. Our methods are fast and reliable." At that moment, Chris Taylor entered the chamber. He was a young diplomat from Earth who had been studying alien cultures for 2 years. The tribunal had asked him to explain human society to help him understand the tool situation. "Honorable judges," Chris said, "I can explain human repair culture. We call it percussive maintenance when we hit something to make it work better." The words percussive maintenance caused panic in the chamber. Several aliens stood up quickly and started talking in their own languages. Judge Luxara hit her gavel on the desk to restore order. "Mr. Taylor," she said, "did you just confess that humans practice systematic torture as an accepted cultural norm?" Chris realized his mistake too late. No, it's just a joke term. We only mean that sometimes a gentle tap can fix a loose connection." "A gentle tap with a weapon," Prosecutor Thane Morgul said. "And you call this maintenance, which means regular practice." The situation got worse when Security Chief Grok Mar presented his investigation report. His team had studied human culture using the station's database of Earth information. "Honorable Tribunal," Grok Mar said, "our research shows that humans keep weapons in their homes, their vehicles, and their workplaces. Every human dwelling contains multiple assault devices. They teach their children to use these weapons from an early age." Helen knew he was talking about normal household tools. Every human home had hammers, screwdrivers, and other basic tools. Parents did teach children how to use them safely. But when Grok Mar described it this way, it sounded like humans were training child soldiers. Furthermore, Grok Mar continued, humans have created specialized weapons for different types of assault. They have devices designed specifically for cutting, others for crushing, others for drilling holes, and others for applying twisted force. They have even mechanized these weapons with electric power. Helen thought about her power drill. It was one of her most useful tools, but she could see how the spinning bit and the noise it made would terrify aliens who had never seen anything like it. The most disturbing discovery, Grokmar said, is that humans call their planet Earth, but their own records show it should be called construction site. Everywhere on their world, humans are attacking the landscape with massive versions of these same weapons. Chris tried to explain. Those are construction and mining operations. We build cities and extract resources to make things. You attack your own planet? Judge Mervith asked in horror. We shape it to meet our needs, Helen said. We dig mines to get metal for making tools and machines. We cut down trees to get wood for building houses. We move dirt and rock to make flat places for cities. The aliens looked sick. Their own worlds were carefully maintained gardens where every plant and animal lived in harmony. The idea of deliberately changing a planet's natural state was unthinkable to them. Judge Luxara spoke quietly. We begin to understand. Humans are not just a warrior species. You are a species that makes war against the very concept of natural order. You attack your planet, your machines, and even the basic materials of existence. Helen felt frustrated. Everything she said made things worse. The aliens could not understand that humans saw themselves as builders and fixers, not destroyers. To them, human technology was evidence of a violent and dangerous civilization that could not be trusted. In civilized space, Captain Lisa Brooks had heard enough. The tribunal had been going on for 3 days, and things were getting worse instead of better. Every time her crew tried to explain human tools, the aliens became more frightened. She decided to take a different approach. Honorable judges, Captain Brooks said, standing up in the center of the chamber. I request permission to conduct a practical demonstration. Judge Luxara looked interested. What kind of demonstration, Captain? Give us a broken machine. Let us fix it using our tools while your people try to fix an identical machine using your methods. Then you can see the results for yourself. The aliens talked among themselves in their musical language for several minutes. Finally, Judge Luxara agreed. This demonstration will be conducted under strict security protocols. If your people attempt to use their weapons for violence, they will be stopped immediately. 2 hours later, they were in a large workshop area of Nexus Station. The aliens had brought 2 identical machines from a human ship that had been abandoned years ago. Both machines were completely broken. Their metal parts were bent, wires were disconnected, and nothing worked. Tony Martinez and Sarah Johnson volunteered to represent the human repair team. Tony was an expert with power tools, and Sarah knew everything about electrical systems. They looked at their broken machine and made a plan. On the other side of the workshop, 3 alien engineers prepared to demonstrate their repair methods. Harmony singer Velanara, circuit whisperer Thom Kai, and metal healer Jixinth were supposed to be the best repair specialists in the galaxy. Begin, announced Security Chief Grokmar. Tony and Sarah went to work immediately. Tony used a hammer to straighten the bent metal parts. Each strike of the hammer made loud ringing sounds that echoed through the workshop. The alien observers jumped every time he hit something. Sarah disconnected the damaged wires using wire cutters. She stripped the insulation from new wires with her utility knife, then twisted the bare copper ends together. To complete the connections, she used electrical tape and small screws. Meanwhile, the alien repair team stood around their machine and began to sing. Their voices created beautiful harmonies that filled the workshop with gentle music. They held their hands near the broken parts and moved them in slow, graceful patterns. Tony needed to drill new holes for replacement bolts. He plugged in his power drill and selected a metal bit. When he squeezed the trigger, the drill made a high-pitched whining sound as the bit spun at high speed. The noise was sharp and aggressive compared to the alien singing. Several alien observers ran out of the workshop when they saw the drill bit cutting through metal. Sparks flew as Tony worked, and the smell of hot metal filled the air. To the aliens, it looked like Tony was torturing the machine with fire and violence. "Stop this demonstration," called out Judge Mervith. "We cannot watch this brutal assault any longer." "But we're almost done," Sarah said. She was connecting the last few wires to restore power to the machine. The alien repair team continued their gentle approach. They sang more complex harmonies and used special crystals to focus healing energy on the broken parts. Their method was beautiful and peaceful, but nothing was happening to the machine. The bent metal stayed bent, and the broken wires remained disconnected. Tony finished drilling and bolted the straightened parts back into place. Sarah completed the electrical connections and checked each wire with her multimeter. The machine looked rough compared to its original condition, but all the important parts were working again. "Ready for power test," Sarah announced. She flipped the switch, and the machine hummed to life. Lights blinked on its control panel, and its mechanical parts began to move smoothly. The repair was complete and functional. The alien repair team stepped back from their machine. Despite an hour of singing and energy healing, it remained completely broken. Nothing had changed. "Impossible," whispered Harmony singer Velinara. "Human technology does not respond to healing energies." Defense advocate Kira Zenthal examined both machines carefully. "The human machine functions perfectly. The other machine shows no improvement." Captain Brooks felt relieved. Finally, they had proven that human tools were necessary for fixing human machines. But her relief disappeared when she saw the expressions on the alien faces. "This demonstration proves our worst fears," Prosecutor Thane Morgul said. "Human technology is designed to resist peaceful repair methods. It can only be maintained through violence and destruction." Judge Luxara looked horrified. "You create machines that require torture to function. This is evidence of a deeply disturbed civilization." "That's not fair," Tony said. "Your healing methods don't work on our machines because our machines aren't alive. They're made from dead materials that don't respond to energy or music. Why do you build machines from dead materials?" asked Circuit Whisperer Tom Singlequotes Kai. Sarah tried to explain. "Because dead materials are predictable. Metal always behaves the same way. Plastic always has the same properties. We can calculate exactly how much stress they can handle and how long they will last. But living materials grow stronger and heal themselves," said metal healer Jixenth. "Living materials also get sick and die," Tony replied. "They can change in ways you don't expect. Our machines last for decades without major changes." The demonstration had backfired completely. Instead of showing that human tools were necessary and harmless, it convinced the aliens that human technology was fundamentally wrong and dangerous. Dan Foster, who had been watching quietly, stepped forward with his power drill. "Maybe I can show you a gentler example," he said. He selected a small bit and set the drill to its lowest speed setting. "See, it doesn't have to be violent," he said, and squeezed the trigger. Even at low speed, the drill bit spinning and cutting through a piece of scrap metal was too much for the alien observers. 6 of them fainted, and the rest backed away in terror. Captain Brooks realized they had a much bigger problem than she had thought. The aliens weren't just afraid of human tools. They were afraid of the entire human approach to technology and life. On the 4th day of the tribunal, an ancient alien entered the chamber. She moved slowly, supported by a walking staff made of crystal that glowed with soft blue light. Her skin was pale silver, and her eyes were older than any eyes Jake had ever seen. When she spoke, everyone in the room became quiet. "I am wise speaker Velani," she said. I have lived for 3,000 years. I was present when my people first left our home world and met other species among the stars. Judge Luxara bowed respectfully. Honored wise speaker, we welcome your wisdom in this difficult matter. Vellani looked at the humans standing in the center of the chamber, then at the alien judges around them. I have listened to the testimony in this case. I believe both sides are missing an important truth. She moved to a spot where everyone could see her clearly. Long ago, when civilizations were young, every species faced the same choice. How do we build tools to improve our lives? How do we fix things when they break? The ancient alien gestured toward the alien judges. Most species chose the path of harmony. We learned to grow our technology like living things. We developed materials that could heal themselves and machines that responded to gentle energy. Our tools became partners that worked with us. Then she looked at the humans. But there was another path, the path of force and manipulation. Most species who tried this path destroyed themselves with their own violence. They built weapons instead of tools. They fought wars instead of building civilizations. Captain Brooks felt worried. It sounded like Vellani was agreeing that humans were dangerous. However, the wise speaker continued, humans are different. You chose the path of force, but you did not destroy yourselves. Instead, you learned to control your power. You built tools that were stronger than living tools, but you used them to create instead of destroy. Jake listened carefully. He had never thought about human tools this way before. The truth is this, Vellani said. Human tools would be weapons of mass destruction if used on our technology. But our healing methods would be useless on human machines. We have developed in opposite directions, but both paths led to successful civilizations. She walked over to where Jake's toolbox sat on the evidence table. May I examine your tools, Jake Miller? Jake nodded. Yes, ma'am. Vellani picked up his hammer with both hands. She held it carefully, feeling its weight and balance. This tool could destroy our crystal matrices completely. One strike would shatter technology that took years to grow. The alien judges made nervous sounds, but Vellani continued. However, I see something else. This tool shows signs of careful use. The handle is worn smooth from thousands of hours of work. The head has small dents from precise strikes. This is not a weapon. This is an instrument played by a master craftsman. She set the hammer down and picked up a screwdriver. This tool could puncture our living metals and cause them great pain. But look at the tip. It is worn to exactly the right shape for the screws it turns. It has been maintained and sharpened with great care. Jake felt proud. He did take good care of his tools. Vellani turned to address the tribunal. The question before us is not whether human tools are dangerous. They are. The question is whether humans can be trusted to use dangerous tools responsibly. She activated a holographic display that showed images from the Terra Nova. I have studied the repair work done by Jake Miller and his colleagues. Their methods are violent by our standards, but they are also precise. They apply exactly the right amount of force needed for each task. No more, no less. The display showed Jake tapping a stuck screw loose, then stopping as soon as it moved. It showed Sarah cutting a wire to exactly the right length, not cutting more than necessary. This is not random violence, Vellani explained. This is controlled application of force. The humans have learned to be violent with materials, but gentle with living beings. Tony Martinez spoke up. We would never hurt anyone with our tools. They're just for work. I believe you, Vellani said. Your species has learned something that few others have achieved. You have separated the violence necessary for working with dead materials from the violence that harms living beings. She looked at the alien repair specialists who had participated in the demonstration. Soft touch Nimara, please show our human friends how we repair living metal. The alien engineer came forward with a piece of damaged crystal technology. She began to sing to it in a voice like wind chimes. As she sang, the cracks in the crystal slowly closed. The broken edges grew back together until the crystal was whole again. Jake watched in amazement. That's incredible. It's like magic. Not magic, Nimara said. The crystal wants to be whole. I simply encourage it to remember its proper shape. Jake had an idea. Could you teach us to do that? For working on your technology? And could you teach us to use human methods? Nimara asked. Not for violence, but for understanding how your people think? Wise Speaker Velani smiled. It was the first time any alien had smiled since the humans arrived at Nexus Station. This is the answer, she announced. Not separation, but cooperation. Humans will learn our gentle methods for working with living technology. We will study human methods to understand your approach to problem solving. Judge Luxara looked uncertain. But what about the danger to our technology? Humans will use different tools when working on our systems, Velani said. They will learn to sing to crystal matrices and channel healing energy through living metals. But when they work on their own technology, they will use the tools there. Civilization requires. Captain Brooks felt hope for the first time in days. You mean we can stay in space? We won't be banned from traveling? Better than that, Velani said. The Galactic Council will establish the Human-Alien Technology Exchange Program. Your people will teach us about precision and control. We will teach you about harmony and growth. Jake looked at his toolbox, then at the alien engineers around him. So my hammer and screwdriver aren't weapons anymore. They were never weapons, Velani said. They are tools used by people who chose a difficult path but learned to walk it with wisdom. 3 months later, Jake stood in a workshop on Nexus Station. He was teaching a class of heavily armored alien students how to use a screwdriver safely. Meanwhile, Amy Cole was in another room, learning to repair crystal circuits by humming to them. The basic toolkit. A chord had become the foundation for human membership in the Galactic Council. Humans were no longer seen as dangerous warriors, but as skilled craftspeople who had mastered the art of controlled force. Jake smiled as he watched his alien student successfully turn a screw for the first time. Sometimes the best way to build peace was to show others that what looked like violence could actually be another form of care.